And we are live. Welcome to another edition of DT Live. Today is July 4th here in the US, Independence Day, so I figured I would do a big July 4th Linux distro extravaganza. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the recent releases of Bodhi, Elementary, and Pinguy. Give me just a second, guys. Let's see, we already have a few people in the chat. See. Yeah, Angel Diaz was here actually a few minutes before the stream started. Angel declares, "I'm first, woohoo." Luis was also here. He said, "I'm second, woohoo." Blas, 69th, woo-woo. Yeah, Silent Saint says, "Hello, how you doing, Silent?" Glad you can make it. Keegan, what's up, sir? Hector, how you doing? We got a few people here already. Mr. Big Daddy Linux himself, Rocco. Hector, you're 6th. Were you? I don't know. You're slipping a little bit, Hector. You should be first every time. Chuck Harrington says hello. How you doing, Chuck? Good to see you, buddy. All right, so today, what I was going to do is I was just going to take a look at some of these recent distro releases. There have been several in the last couple of days. I'm just going to take a very brief look at these. 2 of them are not really releases yet. They're not really meant for primetime use. One of them is really not meant for primetime use. It's really more alpha level software. So, and even the one that is an actual release, Pinguy OS, is an official release. I don't know much about yet. I've never really looked at Pinguy before. So these could be interesting distros to take a look at. I'm not sure if I would recommend you guys, you probably don't need to install these as far as on your main production machines. If you have an extra drive, go ahead and play with them, or a spare machine. Take a look at them in a VM. Take a look at them on a live USB stick. But certainly 2 of these are not quite ready for prime time yet. Let's see. We got a couple of people still coming in. Kenny says happy 4th. Happy 4th to all you guys that are here in the States. It was a great day here for me. I just relaxed. Ate some food. Of course, I've got my evening beverage here. I figured I'd start with a beer this evening. Of course, we got fireworks popping here in the neighborhood where I'm at. It's actually legal for us to pop fireworks here where I'm at. Of course, it's very humid in this part of the country, so there's not much, chance for accidentally starting a fire. Obviously, in a lot of places, a lot more drier climate. Certainly out west, you can't do these sorts of things. But if you hear a lot of loud bangs and explosions, that's fireworks. It's not gunshots, so. Yep. So Hobo Lord says, "Hey there, little Buddha." You talking to me, or you talking to Mr. Buddha behind me? Yep. Chuck says, "Hiya, Rocco." Robert Fitzpatrick is also in the house. Silent Saint is here. And yep. Keegan, "I've settled on MX 32-bit with Ice Window Manager for my old laptop. It's snappy." Yeah, Ice Window Manager should be snappy. Alan Rocco is also here. He says, "Happy Independence Day for all my American friends." How you doing, Alan? Good to see you. All right, so to not waste much time, I'm going to go ahead and start the first of these. Lamer is in the chat. How you doing, Lamer? Let me go ahead and fire up Bodhi Linux. But before I get into Bodhi, we should actually read a little bit about it. We should read some of these release announcements. So if I go over here to distrowatch.com, let's see. Bodhi was released July 2nd, so 2 days ago. This is Bodhi Linux 5.0.0 release candidate. So, let's see. If I'm actually going to go to the official Bodhi website for their release announcement. Let's see, Bodhi Linux 5.0.0 release candidate. Today I'm very pleased to share the hard work of the Bodhi team with our latest yada 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 pre-release These disk images have no major issues that our team has been made aware of, and will likely be fairly close to the images we tag as a stable release this summer. So they're saying it's pretty close. It's not really beta. They're calling it a RC, a release candidate. They don't think there's any major bugs, but of course you guys test it out. You find anything, of course you need to report it. That is the point of, alphas, betas, release candidates. If you find anything they're not aware of, make sure you let them know. Pass providing, okay. Their solid Moksha desktop. So the interesting thing about Bodhi Linux is it has its own desktop environment. It is a fork of the old Enlightenment 17 desktop environment, but they call it the Moksha desktop environment. We should talk a little bit about the naming conventions here. Bodhi originally used the Enlightenment desktop environment. Enlightenment is a very common term within the Buddhist religion, hence my Buddha statue behind me. The actual word Bodhi, for those of you familiar with the Buddhist religion, Bodhi means enlightenment or awakened. Buddha means the awakened one, or something similar to that. When they forked the Enlightenment desktop and created their Moksha desktop, the Moksha word means liberation, I believe. So it's very, the naming conventions of this distro very much circle around the Buddhist religion. Of course, it's not a religious distribution. It just happens to be that way. Probably because they focused originally on the Enlightenment desktop environment. Alright, so getting back to the release notes, let's see if there's anything of real note that we want to be made aware of. Actually, the release announcement is not very long at all. It's just a couple of paragraphs and then like 4 screenshots. So there's not much to the release candidate. I appreciate that sub there, sir. Thank you. So let's go ahead and fire up a VM. So I'm taking a look at all 3 of these in a VM. I'm not going to go through the install process for Bodhi, Elementary, or Pinguy. Why am I not going to go through the install process? Because the install process for Bodhi, Elementary OS, and Pinguy is exactly the same. All 3 of these distros are Ubuntu-based distros. They all use the Ubiquity installer. The process is exactly the same as your standard Ubuntu and main Ubuntu flavors. As far as, it's a very quick install, easy, 10 to 15 minutes and you're done. You create a username and a password, you click OK about 3 times, and you're done. So there's no reason for me to go through that install, certainly not to go through that install 3 different times. You've all seen Ubuntu installs, I've done a million of them, so I'm not going to bother doing that for time's sake. So I've already got it installed. This is how the Moksha desktop environment loads on startup. You get this full screen browser with your quick start guide, and it tells you everything you need to know about Bodhi Linux. This is your instruction manual, if you will. Connecting to the internet, installing software, Moksha basics, all about the desktop environment itself, because it's a little strange. This is a little bit different desktop environment than what you're probably used to. Quick launchers, the quick FAQ, frequently asked questions, resources, and Colophon, which is credits, revisions, licensing for the quick start guide. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this guide. I may come back to it because I may need to reference some things here. I am not very familiar with, or I was not very familiar with Enlightenment 17, that particular desktop. Really not familiar with their particular fork of it, the Moksha desktop. I've taken a look at Bodhi Linux once or twice in the past, very briefly. It's not something I've ever lived in, but I do respect a lot of what the Bodhi devs do. For one thing, this is going to be one of the lightest distros you can try, as far as one that is pretty feature rich. I mean, it does have a proper desktop. It has panels with widgets, taskbars, it has menus. You have a left click menu. You left click on the desktop, you get your applications menus, your places menus, a link to a quick launcher where you can, launch programs that way. This left click menu on the desktop, if for some reason you can't click on your desktop, say you have a web browser full screen, you can go down here to the panel, and this button here in the panel launches that exact same menu. It launches your left click menu. Wow, and there's some neat, really cool animations here. Is that the same in this? Yes. So actually, you know, for a really lightweight, minimal distro, you know, it actually looks really good. I like the looks of the panel. I know aesthetics are not everything, but the fonts are interesting. The colors are interesting. It's a beautiful wallpaper. You know, first impressions, they do speak on something. So first impressions, very good. Let's see. Yeah, somebody in the chat is mentioning the video quality is not great. I am seeing a green in OBS as far as stream health. I'm also seeing green in YouTube's live preview. So stream health seems to be good on my end. I don't know what could be the issue. Sometimes it could be YouTube servers themselves. Everything appears to be working okay on my end though. But I do apologize if there is some buffering or some stuttering. But I don't think I can do anything about it right now. Nobody else is here on my network, so it's just me on the internet, and I'm not doing anything on the internet. That's one of the reasons I didn't go through the install process for these distros on camera, is because I wanted to update the systems as well. Pulling things down through the package manager really lags streaming sometimes. So anyway, back to Enlightenment. Just quickly, let me go back to the quick start guide that I had minimized, because one of the things we will need to familiarize ourselves with is Moksha, this particular desktop. For one thing, it has some interesting naming conventions. For example, they have what they call gadgets, which are really widgets. They have shelves, which are really your sys tray and taskbar, you know, the things that sit on your panel. So if you're not sure what gadgets and shelves are, you know, it's really confusing. For example, if I left click and get the menu and go to settings, we have gadgets, modules, shelves. If you don't know how they're using those particular terminology, and I really wish they would rename these. This shelves is really the panel at the bottom. Your gadgets are, for example, available layers. I can choose background, configure layer, and I can add widgets to the desktop. That's basically what this is. Gadgets are really widgets. So if I wanted to add a clock to the background, add gadget, and a clock should appear on the desktop. I can move it around. Can I resize it? Yep, I can. Yep. So that's how that works. And there is a number of these kinds of gadgets. Of course, a lot of the same stuff also sits in your panel or the shelf. So basically you can put these things either on the desktop, on the panel, whatever you want to do. I actually think that clock is not a bad looking clock to sit on the desktop. I'll leave it there for now. As far as applications installed by default, Bodhi does come with some programs installed by default, but it is pretty minimal. For example, under accessories, we have ePad for a plain text editor. ePad I have never heard of before. ePad is a simple text editor written in Elementary and Python. Okay, that's interesting. Looks very, very old school too. Now I wonder why they chose that particular plain text editor, because we have dozens of plain text editors available in Linux. Preferences, we have AR&R. AR&R is your display settings. Basically, you would use this for, you know, configuring, especially like me, I use multi-monitors. I'm not using triple monitors in this VM, although I could have, but I only record one monitor when I do these streams, so I just have it set up to use one monitor today. But if I was using all three of my monitors, I would use something like AR&R to arrange the layout of the three monitors, because sometimes when you're using multi-monitors, they are not arranged in the correct order. You might have monitor 1, monitor 3, monitor 2, where you start dragging stuff across one screen, it appears way over here, and then it appears on the middle, and AR&R will allow you to configure your monitors in the correct order. All right, also under preferences, we have elementary configuration. Let's check this out. Okay, so this is, we can do some scaling. So this is for sizing, setting our theme. Let me see if I can open up some kind of file manager here. I'm not exactly sure what they are using here. They are using PCman FM. Very cool. My favorite file manager. Very light, very fast. PCman FM. I usually use PCman FM when I do my open box sessions. So the default is, let's see, the default, if I use that theme, you know what that is? That's really neat, actually. It's kind of a dark gray with some blue highlighting. Let's see. I guess you can enable more than one. I'm really not exactly sure how this works. That's weird that you can highlight 3 different themes, but it's only going to enable one, so I'm not sure if that's a bug. Anyway, I'm just going to go with the Moksha Arc Green. Icons, we have a few different icon packs installed. We have the Enlightenment icon pack, which looks very similar to the Elementary icon pack. If I can find some icons to look at. We have the Faenza icon pack, which is the one that's enabled by default. We have Genome, Humanity. Wish I could find some icons to take a look at. Maybe I need to go to a different folder where I actually have some icons to look at. When I click Use Icon Theme, it does not change. It still uses the Faenza icons. That is weird that it doesn't change. Maybe if I close the file manager and reopen it, the file manager acted like it did not want to close there too. Let's see. Yeah, apparently it's just not going to let me change the icon theme. It wants to use the Faenza icon theme. Oh well. System fonts I'm not going to play with. That's pretty straightforward. Audio, we can mute some of the sound effects, like the background, any kind of system notification sounds. Let me head back to the chat here, catch up on some of you guys. I know I missed a little bit of the chat while I was running through that. I'll get back to Bodhi in just a second. Let's see. Yep, the video quality, yeah, I hope it's getting better. Logan says it's 480p here. What sometimes will happen on YouTube's end, when I watch a lot of people's streams, sometimes for some reason it goes down to 144p for whatever reason. All you have to do is just refresh the stream, and then 1080p or 720p or whatever you prefer will be an option for you. So anytime, you know, for whatever reason, if the stream all of a sudden just craps out and goes to 144p, just refresh and then, yeah, manually select 1080p, which Ed Berry suggested in the chat. Yes, sir. Yeah, you can watch 720p, 60, stutterless, silent, yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure why that happens in YouTube. It happens to me a lot when I'm watching other people's streams. Happens on most streams, actually. I don't know why. Sometimes it just, all of a sudden you'll be watching perfect 1080p and then boom, it's all 144p for some reason. Usually a quick refresh fixes it. Siva, how you doing? Good to see you. Sven, salute from Germany. Yeah, got a lot of German viewers here on the channel. Matter of fact, I did an earlier stream the other day, a little earlier in the day than what I normally do. There must have been, you know, 8 or 10 German folks in the chat that day. So we got a few people from Germany that hang out here. Let's see. Yep, Ronnie is Norwegian. Of course, Alan Rocco, one of our regulars here, he's in Mexico City. Logan, hi all. Remember to vote for Windows 10. We're going to get to the vote on what operating system I should run for the next month here in a minute. I'm glad you brought that up. And please don't vote for Windows 10. TJ says hi, DT. How you doing, TJ? Yeah, Ed Berry, you can use the settings cog to select resolution. Yeah, for the YouTube resolution. Yeah. Yeah, Ronnie says, yep, helped. Thanks a lot. All right. Kerwin is in the chat. He says, hey, Derek. How you doing, Kerwin? We got that false guy from Norway. More Norwegians. Katrina, greetings from Arizona. Tobias, hello from Germany too. Yep. So, yeah. Anyone from Turkey? Let's see, Canada here for Hobo. Big Daddy says he voted for Windows 10. I bet you did, sir. Anyway. So, back to this very quick look at the Bodhi 5.0 release candidate. Back to some of the applications installed by default. We have our network connection applet. You don't need to see that. Graphics, we really have nothing installed. ePhoto, I'm assuming that's just an image viewer. Maybe some kind of photo manager. I'm not familiar with this program at all either. Very, very few programs installed by default. So Bodhi is one of those distros. It doesn't come with, a suite of software. It basically just has the very basic tools just to get you started. It is up to you to actually install all the programs you're going to use on a daily basis. Internet, the Midori browser is here, which is a fast, lightweight browser. It is kind of garbage. I doubt most of you would live with Midori as your browser. Most of us are going to install Firefox or Chrome or Vivaldi or something else other than Midori. Sound and video, we have nothing installed. The Pulse Audio volume control, but no multimedia apps, really. No audio player, no video player. VLC is not here. System tools, we have our file manager because we have to have a file manager, of course. We have the GW package installer because it would be nice to be able to install deb packages without having to go to the command line to do it. We have the system updater, and we have their terminal emulator, terminology, which is really neat terminal emulator. Let's check out what kernel we are running. So uname -r. It is using 4.15.0, which is the same Linux kernel that Ubuntu 18.04 was using. So one thing I saved for last under settings, though, I wanted to come back to under applications, system tools, Bodhi Builder. Now, for such a minimal distro that has almost nothing on the ISO, it is interesting they include this tool here. Bodhi Builder basically is a remaster sys tool. It makes it very easy for you to create your own custom ISO based on Bodhi Linux. So basically, you configure Bodhi however you want to configure it. You want to make an ISO, fork it, rename it, do whatever, create your own distro out of Bodhi. You can do that with this tool. It'll get rid of all your personal home user data. Then you've got an ISO to put out there for other people to try out, share with family, friends, whatever you want to do. So really neat. As a matter of fact, I would love to play with this tool, the Bodhi Builder tool. I just find that very interesting that there's almost no software on this ISO, but they do include that. So that's pretty interesting. We do have a settings panel. This is your standard, like control panel that every distro comes with, where you can play with the wallpaper, themes, colors, fonts, borders. Speaking of which, you guys know I love playing with wallpapers, so let's check out what wallpapers are available. Looks like it may be just one wallpaper that's available. Let's see, if I play around with this for a second, a lot of times distros will have a wallpaper pack installed in user share backgrounds. But I cannot promise you that Bodhi will have anything there. Yep, it just has two default wallpapers, Bodhi Login and Bodhi Old. The old one, let me see if we can click it. Hit apply. Yeah, it's really minimal. It's basically just a gray wallpaper with some kind of grid effect to it, but that is not a very attractive wallpaper, if I'm being honest. I can see why they changed that. So I would probably just go with the default for now. Of course, if you wanted more wallpapers than this, being that it's an Ubuntu-based distro, which is also a Debian-based distro, you could sudo apt install Genome-backgrounds, and it would get you the Genome wallpaper pack. You could sudo apt install Mate-backgrounds, and it would get you the Mate wallpaper pack. I'm not going to bother doing that on camera, but just fire up a terminal or, load up whatever GUI package manager you want to use and look for Genome backgrounds or Mate backgrounds for a program. And that is pretty much it for what I was going to take a look at here for Bodhi. One thing I do want to do is, was going to check out system resources. I doubt they have anything like htop installed, so I might actually install it. Yeah, htop is not installed. Sudo apt, let's do a sudo apt update before I install it. Some interesting terminal font here. So Not the most readable terminal font. I would probably change that. Being an Ubuntu-based distro, I would bet they probably have the Ubuntu font family installed. I'd probably change that to Ubuntu Mono. This is a little too blocky and square for my eyes. But, you know, that's just a personal thing. So sudo apt install htop. This should just take a second. Htop is a very small program. I'll take a sip of my beverage. Yep, it's finished installing. And let's see, system resources. And this is the beauty of using something like Bodhi with Enlightenment, well, not Enlightenment, the Moksha desktop. CPU usage is next to nothing, less than 1% right now once things settled down. RAM usage, 269 megs of the 4 gigs I gave this VM. So under 300 megs. And that is, you know, with a widget on the desktop, the panel. I mean, we got things down here in the sys tray. I mean, I've got clipboard, I've got desktop switcher, the network manager down here. That is really, really lightweight. I could live in Bodhi. Me personally, it's probably a little too minimal for most folks, though. For me, it's right up my alley because I can hack away at it. I'm going to install all the programs that I have to use to get my work done. For a lot of people, this is a little bit too much work for them because you are going to have to put some effort into making this thing your own. Because by default, there is nothing installed here. So that is Bodhi Linux. So I'm going to kill this VM. And just to make things a little faster, I'm just going to X-kill it. Boom, it's gone. Alright, back to the chat for a second. I'm going to try to keep up with the chat as best I can. I do apologize, and a lot of you here today, so if you say something and I miss it and it's really important, just ask it again. Alan Rocco says Midori is limited. Midori is very limited. It's not the best browser. The only reason they put it on the ISO is because it's lightweight, small, it doesn't take up that much space. You know, you need a web browser of some kind in your Linux distro. But I imagine the Bodhi guys expect most people to uninstall Midori and probably install Firefox or Chrome. Daniel, I just came from Windows to Linux this year. I would not do the Windows 10 to you. DT needs its privacy. Thank you, Daniel. I'm glad you understand. Let's see, with every release it's getting better and better. For Bodhi, yeah, it does seem to be getting better and better. I would agree. It's a very clean, polished looking distro. And again, if they fill a certain niche for those of us that like the minimal desktop experience. Bodhi is about as good as it gets, really. If you ever want to give a review or a try, there's a Turkish distro called Pardus. I think I reviewed Pardus on the channel before. I'm pretty sure I did. Check my video history. I think I reviewed one of the Pardus releases. It's been a while though. It was one of the early videos I did on the channel. Let's see. I have Redcore living on a virtual machine. Yeah, Redcore Linux. Actually, I have that living on a virtual machine too. Up here in my rolling releases, Redcore Linux is right there. Fantastic Gen 2 based Linux distribution. The dev behind that project, he's a great guy too. If any of you guys want to try out Redcore Linux, if there's a package that's not in the repos, because it is a small project, just ask the dev, hey, can you package this for me? A lot of times he'll get on that and it'll be done within 24 hours. So if you find something that's not in the repos, and that goes for any of these small, garage distros that, they're not big projects with, dozens of developers behind it, especially these one-man jobs. A lot of times if you just ask these guys nicely, hey, you know what, I really love your distro, but I really have to have this program. It's not in your repos. Most of the time they'll package it for you right away. Let's see, is that laptop behind you running Mint? Yeah, that is Mint 19 on that particular laptop. I've got another laptop that is still running Antergos from where I installed Antergos last week. I really hated the install process of Antergos, but once it was up and running, Antergos is basically just Arch, so I've left it for now. But eventually, Mint is not going to stay on that laptop, and Antergos is not going to stay on the other one. I'm just using these machines to hop for the most part. And Tobias, yeah, you remember the OpenSUSE Studio tool? I do. That just died not too long ago. They quit doing the OpenSUSE Studio. So, all right. Oh, thank you for the super chat there, Bart. I appreciate that, buddy. Much appreciated. He said, "You for my vote for Ghost BSD. The hell with Windblows 10. That's malware." I'm glad somebody understands that, Bart. You and I, we see eye to eye. If you got any question you want answered, anything you want to ask me on the chat, feel free to do so. Let me quickly try to catch up on a lot of the other chat here. I may have to skip over some of it. Let's see. Yeah, I like Genome over Budgie. I don't know why. I don't know why you like Genome over Budgie either. The only reason I would say Budgie or Genome is better than Budgie is it's more feature rich. It's a much more mature project. But Budgie's getting there fast. Budgie's beautiful. You know, it's I like the workflow better than Genome. I like where Budgie is heading. It's not quite mature yet. It's kind of still beta, to be honest. Yeah, Mint gets a lot of hate for some reason, but I love it. I can start to use it right away, and I don't have to constantly fix stuff. Yep. And we have a lot of those kinds of distributions now. That's the great thing. We have so many easy-to-use Linux distributions now. Many of these things install in 15 minutes or less, and when you're done, they just work. Personally, Manjaro KDE has many nice wallpapers. Yeah, Manjaro is a fantastic distribution in general, not just the KDE edition. So, let's see. Yeah, small footprint. Yeah, I love distros with small footprints. So, Elementary, again, it's right up my alley. Or not Elementary, Bodhi is right up my alley. Elementary is probably not right up my alley. We're going to take a look at Elementary in just a second. Let's see. You still got Deepin 15.6 on your... Nope, we got rid of Deepin on the laptops. I still have a VM, I think, of Deepin 15.6, but I kept Deepin on one of my laptops for about 2 weeks. It worked. The repos are slow, though. It takes forever to install software, update the system. They don't have that many mirrors. Most of them are not in the US, so that's a bummer. Yeah, Ronnie says, I love Ubuntu Mate. Steve Skipper, Firefox has been running very slow for me. Yeah, a lot of people have been complaining that Firefox seems to be getting slower these days. I use Firefox. I haven't noticed that, but then again, I don't use like a million tabs, and I don't use extensions at all. So my workflow is probably a little different than most of you guys. For me, I just install a browser. How it comes is how it comes. I don't really do anything with it. I know a lot of you guys really love plugins and extensions on your browser. Can't get Wi-Fi to work, says SG Rocker. What are you trying on Ubuntu Mate? Dual booting with Windows 10? On Ubuntu distros, usually Wi-Fi just works. I'm assuming you probably got a laptop with one of the Broadcom chips. If so, you need to enable the third-party software, the proprietary drivers. So you want to go to the software sources tool in Ubuntu. Make sure to look for the third-party drivers and enable the proprietary Wi-Fi drivers. Let's see. Yeah, Qt Budgie is going to be so cool. Are they still planning on making the switch from GTK to Qt? I haven't heard much about it lately. I remember they made that announcement, but haven't heard anything about that since. Steve Winkler says, hello all and happy 4th. Good to see you, Steve. Yep, we got that false guy in the chat. Andrew Palm, yeah. Firefox slowed down significantly on YouTube. Yeah. I do notice that while doing stuff on YouTube, especially with the YouTube chat, when I'm doing these streams, Firefox is kind of buggy, at least with YouTube. Shocking, I know, because YouTube is a Google product. Google, of course, makes their own browser, Chrome. But I'm not going to install Chrome. You know, I just deal with Firefox. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and fire up Elementary OS. Now, this is not ready for production at all, what I'm about to show you in Elementary OS. Before I fire up Elementary, one more time, thank you, Bart. I really appreciate that, that super chat, buddy. Much appreciated. Really helps out. So, let's go to the release announcements for Elementary. So, Elementary just announced that they are doing a beta, but to be honest, this really is not a beta. This is more like a pre-alpha. And by that, I mean the main dev in the release announcement tells people they basically should not try this. Yes, it's a beta, but it is not ready for prime time. There are major bugs. Do not put this on your main production machines. The App Center has hardly any apps in it. We don't want you to install anything that's basically not already here. There's lists of known bugs and regressions, yada, yada, yada. Basically, and then the last one is please do not review this thing. If you are a journalist, a YouTube reviewer, anybody like that, please do not review this. So this is not a review. I'm not going to review this. I'm just going to fire it up and take a quick look at it, very much like I did Bodhi. That wasn't much of a review on Bodhi either, because it's a release candidate. I really don't want to, you know, give a bad impression on alpha or beta kind of software. And again, Elementary, which I'm about to show you, is really more like pre-alpha software. So when the main dev basically tells people, unless you're an app developer or an extreme Linux enthusiast, don't try this. You know, they know that it's pretty broken right now. So, but what they want is they want people to install it, help them work out the bugs. I mean, that's because Elementary, I mean, the 1804 release of Ubuntu came out late April. I mean, it is July 4th, and we still haven't got Elementary based on 1804 yet. So they're really kind of lagging behind, because all the other major Ubuntu-based distros, by now, they've already released. So we've already had, I mean, right away after Ubuntu dropped and all the major flavors, then we had Linux Lite, very close behind. We even had, you know, Mint and all the major Mint editions. Of course, later I'm going to review Pinguy. A lot of the Ubuntu-based distros have already, you know, rebased on 1804 and have versions out. So Elementary is kind of dragging a little bit. Also, I should have warned you guys, Elementary takes forever to launch here. This Elementary Juno Beta 1. It will eventually load up, if I can speak. I'll go back to the chat here. Yeah, Ike of the Solus team said the Qt rewrite decision is being reevaluated. Okay, that would be why we haven't heard much about it. Is they're still debating the switch from GTK to Qt? Okay. I wonder what made them reconsider. They probably, you know, started looking at how much work would be involved, and maybe they just don't have the manpower to make that happen. Yeah, Alan Rocco, Firefox is giving me problems with DRM and it's getting slow. Back to Chrome. Yeah, you're going back to Chrome. Okay. Yeah, so my Windows 10 install decided to unactivate itself after upgrading. I think I will have to call India to activate it every time I upgrade. Yeah, many people don't install Elementary at all. Huh. Okay. Let me make a note here in the chat. Let me get back to my desktop. So it finally loaded up. I don't know why it takes forever and a day for Elementary to load up. I will go ahead and warn you guys, when I take a look at Pinguy, it takes forever to load up too. Both of them are based on Ubuntu 1804. As a matter of fact, all three of the distros we're looking at today, 1804 based distros. None of them boot up fast. None of them get to a login manager very fast, but Elementary is really slow. Pinguy, you can wait all day on to load up. I don't know why. So let me log in. First of all, the login manager for Elementary, wow, love it. Very minimal, very clean. Love the wallpaper. Love the font even. 5.0 Juno Beta. By the way, they are going to name, or not name, well, I should mention the name. The next version of Elementary is named Juno, but the version number is 5.0. Now, the last version of Elementary, Loki, was 0.4. So they're going from version 0.4 to version 5.0. We're just skipping over version 1, 2, 3, 4, going straight to 5. We seem to be getting a lot of this with these Linux distributions these days. Was it SUSE and Gecko? I think it was SUSE that did it. Gecko follows the same numbering scheme though, where we jumped from like version somewhere in the teens to version like 47. And then we jumped back down into the teens for the next one after that. I really wish they wouldn't play with the numbering scheme like that. Let's just keep things simple. You know, version 1, version 2 should follow, version 3, you know. Let's not jump all over the place with the version numbers. That's a minor gripe. Anyway, the elementary desktop. Again, this is pre-alpha software. You really can't do much with it yet. There are 3 updates available. I wonder if I should try to take that update. Anyway, there's not much installed on it as far as applications. All the applications are right here on this one screen. The App Center, Calculator, Calendar, Camera, Code, Epiphany, the web browser, Files, Mail, our multitasking view, Music, Photos, Screenshot, System Settings, the Terminal, and Videos. That's everything that's installed. The Plank dock is the dock at the bottom. Of course, you still can switch the views here in the applications menus. There's a lot of fireworks going on outside right now. I do apologize for some of the noise. It's a major explosion going on. One of my neighbors is having a good time. Anyway, this, you know, it looks very similar to Loki. There really are not major changes. If I go back to the release announcement, which I'm not going to, there's really not much in the way of like major hard-hitting stuff in the way of a change log. Better high DPI support is the big thing for those of you that have those kinds of monitors. I don't use those monitors. I don't have any kind of 4K monitor or anything. But for those of you that do, that's the good stuff about it. Of course, it's going to be rebased on Ubuntu 18.04. We'll have an updated kernel, that sort of thing. But as far as if you're expecting the Pantheon desktop to somehow be something that it wasn't before, it's the same. You know, there's not much to it. You have your application launcher here. It's still the same. It's kind of a minimal kind of launcher. You have these 2 different views. You know, this one here you can sort by category, which is kind of nice, or you could just put it all in one big window. Of course, you have your search field. You have the clock and calendar. You know, you have your sound, network, notifications, and your session. Other than that, Plank, not much in Plank. Same programs we saw up here are in Plank. Let me see. Plank is Plank. It is stupidly simple for a description. Well, that's weird. That kind of changed the theme. As a matter of fact, that's one thing I didn't check out is what kind of themes are available in Plank. So they have the default, which is, you know, this black bar underneath. We have GTK Plus, which was the one that it shipped with by default. That's actually pretty cool. Classy theme. We have matte, and we have transparent, which is no background. Yeah, I like the GTK Plus one. That's definitely the best. We can also change position of Plank, left, right, top, bottom. We'll leave it at the bottom for now. We can adjust the icon size, so I can make it a bit smaller. I would probably make it quite a bit smaller if it was me, because I would probably load that thing up with a lot more programs, but I'll just leave it at 40 pixels for now. Alignment, you can center it. You can also have it 100% width of the screen. For those of you running multi-monitors, you can specify which monitor to put Plank on. Let me hit the close button. Speaking of the close button, let me go back to applications. I'm going to open up the file manager just for demonstration purposes. That is great. We have the close button over here on the left hand side. Why is the maximize button on the right? This is one of the things, you know, with the elementary guys. Put all your buttons either all on the left or all on the right. I don't like the close button over here, the maximize button, the unmaximize button on the opposite sides. The other thing is we don't have a minimize button at all. If I want to minimize this to the panel or the dock, how do I do that? Well, other than clicking on the icon down here in the Plank, that's all I can figure out. So if I'm moving this window around and I want to minimize it, I have to do all this mouse travel to go down here to minimize it. Same thing when I unminimize it. I have to go down here and then all the way back up to do whatever I want to do in this window. That is just too much mouse travel. I don't like that at all. They really need to rethink what they're doing with those buttons. File Manager, by the way, looks great. Like the icon set too, this light blue icon set. Really sharp looking. Really, it's a beautiful distro, Elementary OS. The App Center, they warned us in the release notes there would be nothing in the App Center. I think they said there was only about 65 apps in the App Center. So let me just pick a category. How about accessories? Yeah, there's a few things here, but not much. Of course, you do have the option of having paid apps. That's one of the things about the Elementary App Center. They do offer paid apps. I believe you can make donations to certain projects too. Yeah, so you can actually choose what you would like to donate to, for example, Dippy. Not exactly sure what that program is, but if I wanted to make a donation and download that program, I could. I think that is a great way to support free and open source software, is to have that option in your software centers. I wish every software center did that, to be honest. I think that is a fantastic feature. One of the problems with donating to these free and open source projects that I found is that sometimes it's hard to find a way to donate to them. Sometimes they don't make it easy. Like Linux distros. Thank you for that super chat, Breadmoth. I really appreciate that, buddy. Now, if you have a question you'd like me to answer, feel free to post it in the chat. But yeah, back to donating to free and open source projects. You know, every Linux distro should have a way to donate to them on their downloads page. You know, so I download your ISO. Let me go ahead and, you know, tip you through PayPal or Patreon or whatever you got set up. Same thing with all these other projects. A lot of them, they don't have anything on their website how to donate. Some of them, you know, they'll do like a yearly drive to raise funds, like a, you know, the Caden Live guys, you know, that have their end of the year thing where they ask for donations. But I really wish all of them, you know, had easier ways to contribute, or you know, more transparent ways to contribute, how to contribute. Anyway, back to the chat for a second. Bread Moss says, I just got on. Start over. Just kidding. Also, here's my contribution for that thing you need. Forgot what it is. Well, I've got a couple of things I actually need for the channel, and I've already placed the order for a few things. We will do some equipment reviews soon on the channel. I've got some things on the way. So I've got some of them I've discussed. I told you guys I was going to be ordering. A couple of them I haven't discussed at all. So I have spent a few $100s here in the last month on some new equipment I've got coming, some new hardware. Let's see, back to some of the chat I missed. Let's see, should I just go with a single OS or dual boot a Linux distro with a BSD? Well, that's entirely up to you, Babbler. You can dual boot. I don't like dual booting personally because there's always the chance that your bootloader will be overwritten by one of the other operating systems, especially if you're dual booting with Windows. But that's a minor problem. It's easy to fix if you have grub problems. You can always rescue the system with a live USB stick. Let's see. Yeah, Rex7 says go with a single OS. Yeah, single OS is going to give you the least amount of headache. But if you have to dual boot, if you have to dual boot. Or, you can always keep VMs around or a live USB stick of another operating system. Yeah, and the Market Anarchist, he's doing the README from the Budgie GitHub page. This will now be remedied as we merge back into Solus. And all previous decisions will now be reevaluated. So they're reevaluating that decision to move to the Qt toolkit for Budgie. So they might stay on GTK. Okay. Yeah, Run with the Dolphins in the chat. He says it's really hard when you divert too far from a base distro to release quickly. Yes. So Elementary is doing a little bit too much of their own thing, and that's why it takes them a while to get their product out. It makes sense. Also, it's still a small development team, the Elementary team. They do fantastic work. For what they do, it's really amazing. All the apps. I mentioned, the apps. Let's go back to just for a second. All these apps are Elementary apps. They make some of these apps. Like this music player, I believe, is their own music player. This kind of iTunes-looking clone. Does it give me any kind of information on what this app is called? That's another thing. Is there any kind of about information? Anyway, Most of the apps are elementary apps. The elementary team works on these particular programs, make sure it works with their Pantheon desktop environment, which they create. It's pretty much, it's one of these walled gardens. It's very much like the Mac OS in that regard. I know that the elementary devs may not agree with that particular statement, but that's just my opinion on that. Let's see, Gibran says, probably the developers are stuck with Pop OS since that is their main brand. You talking about the System 76 guys, or? Let's see, Siva Pinguy, I will use Windows 10 before that distro. Is Pinguy that bad? I'm about to take a look. Rex says, how about Ryzen support in Linux? Is it good? It is. There is nothing wrong with AMD CPUs or AMD GPUs in Linux. Great support. Kerwin says, Pinguy was a disaster for me. We talked about this the other night. Kerwin was on one of my live streams last night. He mentioned he was going to try out Pinguy. I guess it did not work out. I can't wait to take a look at it now. I'll get to it in just a second. I may have to skip some of the chat. I had a lot that I missed. Sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah. Video quality is awful in the stream. I actually have not been watching the live preview. It looks pretty good right now. Again, if it for some reason drops down to like 144p, just refresh the stream on your end, and then you go to the settings cog and choose a higher resolution, 1080p or whatever you want to view it in. Yeah, and people are mentioning, yeah. Let's see, check distro watch for, what are we checking distro watch for? Ultimate Edition can be used to build and customize your own edition. Okay, your own distro. Very cool. Okay, caught up to Breadmoth's super chat. Again, thank you, Breadmoth. I really appreciate that. And yeah, that does help. You guys with your contributions through super chat and through Patreon, through PayPal, these really do help. Because I have probably spent, over $1,000 since starting this channel, just on equipment that I use on the channel. So it does help recoup some of those losses. But I do enjoy this stuff. I really enjoy, playing around, with just Linux in general, with computers in general, really getting into this multimedia stuff that I play around with, with better audio equipment, better video equipment, that sort of thing. Let's see, DT, if you take PayPal, you need to put it in the like under the video. I should, and I do. Take PayPal. If you want to donate through PayPal, the PayPal link is in the channel's header. If you go to the main page for DistroTube and YouTube, it is in the header, right next to the Patreon link. But I should put it in the show's description. You are correct, sir. Grub or Lilo? I prefer Lilo. For a bootloader, yes, Grub all day long. Either one works. I've used both. Oh, as long as at the end of the day, whichever one you install, if you reboot your machine and you get a boot menu, you're doing fine. So, I usually only install Lilo when I have a problem with Grub for some reason. There was one distro I reviewed on the channel. I remember I could not get Grub to work at all. And I want to say might have been PC Linux OS. I could not get Grub to function correctly at all. And I tried it for, I don't know, half an hour, try to get the thing to work. Finally, I installed Lilo. It just worked. So I'm glad we have options. Options are good. That's one thing we have in Linux that we will not have if I have to run Windows 10. I have no options in Windows 10. So. Yes, Madhouse. Derek, you'll probably destroy your PC after installing Windows 10. Just waiting for the updates to finish. Yep. EOS is for Mac people who walked away from Mac. Yeah, it could be. I could see that. Yeah, full HD here. Yep. I hear you. 1 gig up, 1 gig down. Okay, very cool. I have a RX 560 coming, and AMD GPUs better. Yeah, is AMD GPUs better on Linux? They function great on Linux. The AMD GPUs. The NVIDIA ones work too, but the drivers can be a problem sometimes. The AMD drivers now are you know, all that's just baked into the kernel. You don't really have to worry about proprietary drivers like we do with NVIDIA. And I say we because I use NVIDIA. But the next graphics card I buy might be AMD. I might start just going AMD all the time now. Breadmoth, I'm too dumb to use Grub, actually. I'm used to Lilo. Grub is not that bad. If you have a problem with Grub, as far as the install, check the Arch Wiki. They have a really nice page on how to get Grub up and running. I've had to use that particular page in the Arch Wiki a number of times, so that's why I can recommend it. So, yeah. After that, I will never ever touch Pinguy, says Siva. So Siva and Kerwin in the chat says Pinguy did not work out for them. Anyway, there's not much to take a look at here in EOS, so let me shut this down. Again, this is not really beta. They called it Beta 1. EOS is nowhere near beta software. So you guys that want to check it out, again, it's mainly for app developers, for real Linux enthusiasts. You're not going to put this on real hardware and live in it. Don't even try it. It is not ready for that at all. Now, the third distro I was going to take a look at is the one that's actually not beta software. This is a real release. Yet people in the chat are telling me that they've had horrible experiences with it already, and it's only been out for like 2 days. This is Pinguy OS. Pinguy OS 1804. So, Pinguy is an interesting distro. I already warned you guys this is going to take forever to boot up, so I'm actually not going to wait on it. Let's go back to Distro Watch for a second. Let's check out the release announcements for Pinguy. Let's see. Do they have a release announcement on an official website? Here we go. So, Pinguy OS. Seems to be little to no news about Pinguy 1804. That was back in February. How is that the release announcement? So, that is not really a release announcement. I don't know why Distro Watch linked to that. Instead, I'll just read Distro Watch's release announcement. Let's see. Pinguy OS, an Ubuntu-based distro, offers a customized GNOME desktop environment intended to be easy to use for new Linux users. The project's latest release, Pinguy OS, is based on Ubuntu 1804 LTS and includes GNOME 3.28. Support for 32-bit computers has been dropped because Ubuntu 1804 no longer ships with a 32-bit image, so a lot of the Ubuntu-based distros, they're no longer going to offer 32-bit images. Anyway, I will tell you a little bit about what I know about Pinguy. About 10 years ago, when I was first getting into Linux, I got into Linux through Ubuntu. And I was a regular viewer of the Ubuntu forums early on because I needed, to know how to do certain things. When you're a new user, you're looking for documentation. So the Ubuntu forums, huge forums, there was this guy over there. I used to see him a lot, Pinguy. I don't know if he was a moderator or he was just a regular contributor in the forums. Anyway, he created his own spin of Ubuntu many years ago called Pinguy OS. And his little spin gained a lot of popularity, actually. And for a number of years, it was a pretty popular distro, and then it seemed to just disappear. He had a release that was based on 1404, but after 1404, he didn't make another Pinguy OS for 4 years until now. All of a sudden, we get Pinguy OS 1804. So this will be interesting. He hasn't really been working on anything in 4 years. All of a sudden, there's Pinguy OS 1804. This might be part of the problem what Siva and Kerwin were talking about, that maybe Pinguy is not what it's cracked up to be. So I don't know how much effort, how much dedication this guy's really putting into this project. I shall see. Breadmoth, appreciate that again, sir. Let's see. Breadmoth, it says, I'd send you my NT4 disk if I can find it so you can do a review for fun. Oh, for the Windows, yeah, fun fact, NT4 was the last version that had multi-architecture. Oh, so it had, 32-bit, 64-bit support for And as a Linux user and 2000 Pro were the best. Okay. Very cool, Breadmoth. I appreciate that, buddy. Yes, sir. You are awesome. Thank you, Breadmoth. All right. Let me go back to the chat so you guys can read Breadmoth's message there. I'll take a sip of my beverage. Yes, sir. Reading his next message here. 2000 Pro improved with USB support, FAT32 support. NTFS had bigger capacity, then XP happened. That was the last version of Windows I ran, was XP. Breadmoth says XP sucks. I have to agree with him. That's what drove me to Linux, actually. XP, and the fact that it was such an insecure operating system. If XP wasn't a complete hack fest, you know, I'd probably still be on Windows to this day. But it was just so insecure. Heather says, never heard of Pinguy. Yeah, most people haven't. But again, they haven't had a release in 4 years. This was a dead distro. I would classify it as a dead distro until all of a sudden, you know, he had a beta release a couple of months ago, and everybody's like, well, Pinguy must be back, and now this is the official release. So I'm going to mark my spot here in the chat. I'll try to come back to you guys if I can. Let me log in. First of all, the login manager here, very beautiful. Of course, Genome. The Genome desktop is very beautiful. Pinguy, he's going to have 1 million extensions. That's kind of what he's always done in the past. He really pimps out his distro as far as the desktop. He's going to have a lot of stuff that it's not installed by default. Not sure what's going on with the login manager here. Well, a couple of you guys mentioned, you know, you had horrible experiences with Pinguy. I'm really not sure how this is going to go for me. I have not looked at this at all. I looked a little bit at Bodhi and Elementary before the stream because I knew those were betas. I knew they might not be ready for prime time, so I wanted to be prepared for any issues with that. But Pinguy, this is not beta. This is actually a release, a real release. So he's got some GNOME extensions, a lot of GNOME extensions actually installed. This menu system, this looks like the GNOME menu extension. I really like how the workspaces are right here. That's actually pretty neat. So you can change desktops right there in your menu. That's really cool. It has the places menu here. That gives you your bookmarks and your file manager. These are basically your bookmarks. It takes you to certain places in the directory structure in your file manager. For example, I click on Home. The Nautilus file manager opens up in Home. Wow, that is a really beautiful theme. I mean, this distro looks great. Probably going to be buggy, though, from what Kerwin and Siva have reported. We have a dock at the bottom. This is really interesting. I'm not exactly sure what this is, if it's maybe the dash to dock or something going on here. This gray background here is not part of the dock, though. Just looking at it, I can tell you that is the wallpaper. So he has kind of created this fake background by using the wallpaper. In the dock, we have Firefox, VLC, we have the GNOME software utility. Stacer. That's interesting. You don't see a lot of distros include Stacer by default. This is what I was talking about, that he likes to add a lot of extra stuff to it. What was the download size for this ISO? I remember it was huge. Yeah, 3 gigs, right at 3 gigs. So this is not a minimal distro. Think of Bodhi Linux that we took a look at earlier that had really nothing installed. This is completely the opposite. So Stacer is a fantastic program, though. It is an Electron app, but you know what? It's great. This is a system cleaning utility, a system cleaner. So think of it something like BleachBit. For those of you familiar with BleachBit, what you would do, you would use this. We've got these tabs on the side. So the rocket symbol here, what does that do? Startup apps. We can turn on and off what launches on startup. For example, Wavebox, I'm not sure what that is. Mint Update. They're using Mint Updates. That's weird. Nemo. So they're using the Nemo file manager instead of Nautilus. That is interesting. Shutter, Telegram, Variety. Variety is our wallpaper changer. Then the real system cleaning stuff is right here with the little broom icon. This is where you could clean your package cache, crash reports, application logs, application cache, and your trash bin. So this gets rid of all the extra clutter on your file system. You know, you get a lot of extra cache files and log files that are just sitting up there taking up disk space. They're no longer being used. You use Stacer to get rid of all that stuff. And sometimes, if it's been a while since you've done one of these system cleanings, it does remove a lot of stuff off your disk. It is worth having a program like Stacer or BleachBit around. Let's see, some of the other stuff is, you know, we can turn on and off services. Let's see, we have this startup at boot or running now. So these tell you all the services in this column. This is all the services that start up automatically. This column is all the services that are running right now. Really cool. And of course we can adjust them. Processes, this is our process viewer. Think of something like HTOP. So this is, you know, your interactive process viewer. You can see what is taking up so much CPU and memory on your system. We have an uninstaller. So if you got some programs you want to remove from the system, all the programs that are installed are here. You want to remove some of them, just click on them, run the uninstaller. Of course, more system info stuff. This is the Apt Repository Manager. This is where you add and remove repos. Probably not something most people want to play around with, but it is there if you need to add repos. Genome Settings. This changes certain things with the window manager. And some language and theme settings. And the last is sending feedback to the Stacer developers. So Stacer is a really neat program. I really wish more distros included it by default. Apparently the Pinguy devs think so highly of it, they even put it right here in the doc. They only have 7 programs in this doc, and they thought Stacer needed to be there, and I agree. That's great. We have the Genome Tweak Tool. Not a lot of GNOME distros install the GNOME Tweak Tool and have it on the system by default. So this is really, really cool. Appearance, we can change the themes. We don't have a lot of themes available to us. We have the default Pinguy theme, and we have Pinguy Darker, which I'm assuming would be like a black theme. Well, it gives us a black title bar. Let's see if I can open up a file manager to see what kind of changes we make here. So that really didn't do much there, did it? It looks kind of buggy. The darker theme did not change here. So I probably will go back to the default theme. Yeah. Now that doesn't look bad. The darker theme, though, there's definitely something buggy with it. Because it does like make the navigation buttons and the background, it is black, but the title bar is still light in color. That makes no sense. So I'm assuming that is some kind of bug. We can change the icons. I really love the default icons. That is Faience Azure. So the only other icons available are Faenza and, you know, the GNOME icon set, which is hideous to look at. I don't even want to look at it. We have the shell theme. The shell theme is called Pinguy. That's the only one available to us. Background, of course, we can change the background of our lock screen and the background for our desktop. Speaking of desktop, we have desktop settings. Do we want to show icons? It's turned on by default. I don't like icons on my desktop. I'll turn it off. Extensions. And this is what I'm talking about with Pinguy. A lot of extensions installed by default. This is nowhere near a vanilla GNOME experience. We have our app indicator status notifier. We have audio output switcher. Really? That is interesting. Where is the audio? Is it the sound over here, or let's see how many? He's got so many applets here. Why don't I just scroll through them at the top? Well, it's the wrong one, but that was the Mint updater. If I click this one, that's the Mint updater, and you see how you have the levels 2, 3, 4, 5, what have you. That is really interesting. I wonder why he went with that particular GUI package manager. Let's see, what do we have here? That is Variety. That is our Wallpaper Changer. And this here is some kind of program launcher. It looks like it might be Synapse. So if I start typing something, I know Nemo is installed. We got Tomboy Note that appears in the search when I started typing. That was interesting. That's not what I was looking for. Of course, we've got our weather app here. That looks sharp. That's very clean. That hides our desktop. Of course, we have our calendar, our time and date. That's interesting that that is moved over here instead of in the center, which is the default in the GNOME desktop. Of course, we have our network, systray, sessions. See, we also have cover flow. That's interesting. He uses that. I haven't heard of the cover flow app in a long time. Frippery Move Clock. That's the applet that gets your clock to move from the center over to the right. Open Weather is the weather app. And Simple Dock. Okay, that is the extension for the dock at the bottom. Simple Dock. Okay, I'm going to head back to the chat for a second. Anyway, Pinguy. There's a lot going on with Pinguy. Maybe a little too much. I mentioned I like minimal distros. This is not minimal at all. Let's see. I have an XP and a VM, firewalled and sandboxed. Yeah, we're gonna, once I finish up with Pinguy, we're gonna mention my search for the next OS. I know a lot of you guys want to discuss that. Yeah, DT. No, it was insecure. XP was insecure because consumers were moved to the NT kernel and most people logged into administrator for an account. Other than that, the NT 5.1 XP could be fairly secure. See, slow and a lot of apps. For Pinguy, yeah. Or for XP. Pinguy, I'm assuming, is what we're talking about. Yes, this GNOME is slow in general, and what he's done here, there's a lot going on here. Yep. I've never heard of Pinguy. More people never heard of Pinguy. Yeah, and if you're new to Linux, you would have never heard of Pinguy. Like I said, the last release was 4 years ago, so. Buggy as heck in my experience. Kerwin still talking about Pinguy. Siva, switch it to a higher quality. By the way, the variety wallpaper just changed. I guess there's only 2 wallpapers, though it keeps fluctuating between the same 2 wallpapers. Yeah. I have more people complaining that they keep getting dropped down to 144p. Yeah, I have a green in OBS and getting a good stream health and the live preview on my end in YouTube. So I'm not sure what is causing those issues. Again, just refresh the stream and it should give you the option to bump that back up. Let's see. Again, just refresh the stream and it should give you the option to... Oh, excuse me, guys. I was actually just viewing the stream myself. Yeah, it actually looks fine here on my end. I'm not sure. Not sure what's going on there. Do notice that we have 90 people watching the stream. Hit that thumbs up. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. I know most of you guys here in the chat, the regulars here, most of you guys are already subscribed, and I really appreciate that. Those things do help. Likes help, subscriptions help, commenting on the videos also helps us rank better in the YouTube algorithms. It really helps out a lot. Alright, so yeah, Esnix is in the chat. How you doing, sir? I was actually watching one of your videos earlier, Esnix. Let's see. Saint Raphael is also in the chat. Yeah, video keeps going blurry. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Francisco, appreciate the subscription, buddy. Much appreciated. Yeah. Siva, I never said I had an issue with Pinguy OS, but the main guy behind it. Okay. Well, Kerwin had an issue with Pinguy, the OS, but I guess Siva has a problem with Pinguy himself. Okay. Well, I don't want to get into that. There's no telling what that could be. Let's see. New users and those with powerful enough machines to run decorative desktops. I have 16 gigabytes of RAM and a fast CPU for a reason, not to have them remain idle. Yep. Well, there is something to be said about that. If you have the machine to run something like GNOME or KDE and and have all these whiz-bang features on your desktop, why not use it? Yeah. I wouldn't argue with you on that. Just quickly, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on Pinguy. You know, it's your standard GNOME desktop with 1,000,000 extensions enabled. Literally, 1,000,000 extensions enabled. Some of them are really nice, though. I really like this menu he's using, the GNOME menu. I really like how the virtual workspaces are right here in the menu. That's actually really nice. There are 1,000,000 programs installed. This was a very big ISO, 3 gigs. Just quickly, accessories. He has FileBot files, which is the Nemo file manager, I guess. GNOME Do, which is our launcher. That was probably the launcher I launched earlier. GNOME Do, yes it was. I haven't heard about GNOME Do in years. I notice he's using a lot of programs by default here on the system that are installed. I haven't heard of some of these programs in, you know, many years. Like GNOME Do, I can't remember the last time somebody did something with GNOME Do, as far as, you know, installing it on a distro. Bread Moth, appreciate that again, buddy. Let's see, getting Hibernate to work on encrypted Lux, LUK, yep. How? I don't hibernate. I would love to help you out with that, buddy, but I have no idea. But I bet somebody in the chat will have an answer for that. I don't hibernate any of my machines. Yeah. Let me quickly, leave any kind of comments you want to in the chat. I'll get back to them in just a second. We have so much to get through here with Pinguy. They're using a lot of Mate apps. So they were using the Mate file manager, Mate calculator, Pluma, which is the text editor in Mate, Shutter, Stacer, we've already taken a look at. Variety is the Wallpaper Changer. Games, Steam, the Steam installer is on the ISO. Internet, we have Deluge for a BitTorrent client. Discord. So we have a lot of proprietary software installed here. Let's see, we have Discord, Dropbox, both of those are not free and open source. Empathy, we have Firefox as our web browser, of course. That would be Firefox 60, the same Firefox that's in Ubuntu 18.04. Remina, which is remote desktop. Skype, again, not free and open source software. TeamViewer 13, again, not free and open source software. Telegram, also not free and open source software. We have XChat for an IRC chat line. A ton of stuff installed here. Under Office, Document Viewer, Calendar, Calibre, which is for your like ebook readers. Contacts, we have ebook editor for those that want to create, I guess, ebooks. The entire LibreOffice suite, Base Calc, Draw, Impress, Writer. We have Banker Finance Manager. I have never heard of that. Never seen this one before. Let me launch that just to see what that's about. WX Banker is the name of the program. It is simple personal finance. That's it. WX Banker 1.0. And it's hosted on Launchpad. They have their Launchpad web address here. Okay. It's copyrighted by, I guess, the main dev, Mike Rooney at Ubuntu.com. So I guess he has an Ubuntu.com email address. I'm not sure if he actually is an Ubuntu contributor as well, the person behind WX Banker. Under the other category, we have Plex Media Manager. We have a trash can viewer. I don't know why you would need a trash can viewer. It's just a quick link to the trash can in your file manager. That's weird. I wonder why he felt the need to add a .desktop file for that. Under programming, we have an icon browser, and we have some Java stuff. Sound and video, a lot of sound and video. Brasero, Disk Burner, Clementine for audio player, DVD for burning DVDs and CDs, FileBot, GTK Pod. I have not thought about GTK Pod in 10 years. GTK Pod is for the using your Apple iPod, little music devices. This helps sync that or using that in Linux. When's the last time you knew somebody that had a iPod? I mean, that's strange that he includes that handbrake for a transcoder. OpenShot is our video editor. Spotify, not free and open source software. VLC. System tools. 1,000,000 system tools. Some of the notable ones I'll quickly mention. BleachBit for a system cleaner. Pinguy Builder is... Let's see. Pinguy Builder. We mentioned Bodhi Builder when we took a look at Bodhi. You guys notice anything here? Looks like the same app, doesn't it? And so this one's called Pinguy Builder. It's the same app. It's basically a remaster sys tool. You can create your own custom ISO, your own branded ISO of Pinguy if you wanted to. It strips out all your user data, and then you can, you know, put your own custom Pinguy based distro out there if you wanted to. And that's all I'm going to do with Pinguy, I think, today. Trying to get through these rather quickly. We have some other things I want to cover before I kill the stream. Power off Pinguy. Hopefully it powers off quicker than it started, because that thing took like 2 or 3 minutes to start. Yeah, it powered off fine. So, kill VirtualBox. You try to catch up on the chat. So Breadmoth, I appreciate that. Yeah, hibernating. Yeah, hopefully somebody will have some answers on that. I cannot help you on that. It's a hibernate. You're hibernating on a notebook. Yeah. Yeah, that should be a project. Hibernate on encrypted LUK. Yeah. Maybe. You say it's hard. I don't know. Present arms. He's back. Let's see. Yeah. Esnick says, go for it. It's addictive, and Pinguy Builder or Bodhi Builder make it relatively easy to get started. Okay. So I guess Esnick has played with the Bodhi Builder and the Pinguy Builder tools. Yeah, it's just, you know, a remaster sys. You know, you can just create your own custom ISOs. And of course, a lot of people think, you know, you're creating custom ISOs to make your own distro to share with people. I mean, it can just be for your own personal use. That's probably what most people would actually use it for. Let's see. Then use GDebi to install. Yeah, we didn't mention the GDebi installer regarding Pinguy. I don't know if it was installed in Pinguy. GDebi was installed in Bodhi, though. Let's see. Catching up on some of the chat. This Pinguy OS seems like the worst thing about the Linux distro. Just a bunch of random software strung together. Yeah, it's not really cohesive. You're right, because it's not like a proper desktop environment. It's a desktop environment, GNOME, with a lot of extra third-party extensions, a lot of third-party extensions. They may or may not work as expected. I don't know. I didn't exactly live in it. It was just a very quick first impression. Then, of course, he's not using all the GNOME apps either. He's using a lot of Mate apps and Cinnamon apps and a lot of proprietary software rather than free and open source software too, which is kind of strange, because some of those things have free and open source alternatives. Yeah, even KDE Plasma is fairly minimal now, says Anarchist. I would agree. It's getting a lot lighter. I wouldn't call it minimal, but it's lighter than it used to be. Absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, KDE is so smooth right now on 5.13. It's very stable. Yeah, I took a look at 5.13 recently. I didn't do it on the channel, but yeah, 5.13 is really nice. Love some of the new blurring effects that they have. But yeah, as far as system resource usage, very low. Not very low, but it's a smaller footprint than what it used to be. Let's see, the Variety Wallpaper Changer downloads backgrounds and is set to store up to the most recent 500 megabytes of images. Okay, so it just pulls down wallpapers from the web and stores up to 500 megs of them and constantly changes. Yeah, I guess I should have played around with some of the settings in Variety. I know you can play around with Variety, tell it exactly what kind of time setting you want it, as far as, you know, change wallpapers every whatever minutes you want to set it to. And me personally, I'd probably turn it off or uninstall it. I'm not much for these wallpaper changing utilities. Usually I find a nice wallpaper, I want to stick with it for a while. Let's see. Yeah, you can grab the builder off the SourceForge page for Pinguy Builder or Bodhi Builder, either one of them. Yeah, I think both of them are hosted on SourceForge. I know Bodhi is. Bodhi had some SourceForge images. Let's see. Yeah, missed some of the chat. It's scrolling by kind of fast here, guys. Let's see, quick question or chat or at DT. My grandma wants to use Linux but is extremely bad with computers. Her laptop is 10 years old. It's a Dell Inspiron 1764, I think. Which distro? It uses only Chrome. So really, grandma, she only uses the Chrome web browser, probably just uses it for Facebook. Yeah, Ubuntu. Any of the Ubuntu 1804 releases would be great. Mint would also be great. I would stick with one of those. No need to get creative. Ubuntu, any of the Ubuntus just works. Since her machine's 10 years old, use one of the lighter ones, Xubuntu. She'd probably be okay with. Mint, XFCE would also work fine. XFCE would probably what I put on a 10-year-old machine, though. Don't try Cinnamon or Genome. They're not going to work out for you, I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, the default looks ugly to me, but can look gorgeous. Let's see. Catching up. LXDE is on life support. Well, it's on life support because, you know, a lot of the development around that project has since moved to LXQt. But LXDE, I mean, it's a mature project. I mean, it still works great, very stable. There's no reason not to use LXDE if you still like it. I do. I often, if some of these distros offer me the option of GNOME, KDE, LXDE, a lot of times I check out the LXDE versions. Just because, you know, maybe they're not seeing new releases as often as some of these other desktop environments. Don't think they're dead. A lot of people tell me that about OpenBox. You guys know I love OpenBox. OpenBox doesn't ever get a new release. I mean, it's very rare you get a new release of OpenBox development. It's kind of slow, but the reason it's slow is because there's not much to OpenBox. Pretty much everything that OpenBox does, it does well. There's no need to add more features. It's feature complete, you know. Same thing with LXDE. You know, it just works as is. It's really nothing it's lacking for its purpose, which is to be a really light, minimal desktop environment. Yeah, Market Anarchist. Yeah, thanks for the recommendations, DT and chat. Yep. Yeah. Anytime you guys are looking for a first distro, especially for family and friends, I would stick with one of the main Ubuntu flavors. If it's a newer machine, something like mainline Ubuntu would be good, or Kubuntu with Plasma. If it's an older machine, Monte or XFCE would be a little better. If it's a really old machine, Lubuntu with LXDE would be the best. Lubuntu is not going to be as feature rich, and the LXDE is kind of a minimal, lightweight desktop. But if it's a really old machine, sometimes that's your only option. Present Arms mentions his distro, which is the Trinity desktop on PC Linux OS, which is really lightweight. Might work for Grandma's computer, I don't know. Is Manjaro a stable distro? I don't consider any rolling release a stable distro. That is not really what they're designed to be. By their very nature, they are not stable. When you run an update, the more packages that are being updated, the more likely things are going to break. That's just common sense. That's the nature of these things. So a rolling release, by its very nature, cannot be stable. It will never be as stable as something like Debian stable, Ubuntu's LTS, OpenSUSE Leap, you know. I know people love to say their Arch install and their Gentoo installs and their Debian SID installs are stable. You know, maybe in their opinion, certainly for me, I mean, I love Arch. I do have breakages in Arch. They're not major breakages, and I fix them within minutes because I know what I'm doing. Would I put Grandma on something like Manjaro? No. No, don't do that. Manjaro, but I mean, if you're an experienced user, yeah, go for it. If what you're doing is really critical and you cannot have any downtime at all, rolling releases are not where you need to be. There is a reason servers do not run rolling release distros. When you look at a server market share, pretty much when you talk about server distros, they're all running Debian Stable, CentOS, Ubuntu LTS, Red Hat. That's it. They are not running Arch or Gentoo or any of that kind of stuff. They just aren't. So. All right, guys. I'm gonna mark my spot in the chat. One other thing, one little bit of work we have to do. We do need to discuss this poll. Let me see if I can find. I think the only way I know how to get to it is, I think I put it in the show's description. So this poll here, then in the show's description, hosted over at pollmaker.com. What Linux distro should I hop to on my main production machine? There's 5 options. Only 3 of them are Linux distros though. Arco Linux, Ghost BSD, which is BSD, not Linux, Sabian, based on Gentoo, Seduction, based on Debian SID, and Windows 10, not Linux. I assumed Windows 10 and Ghost BSD would get some votes because people would troll me and want me to try to live in either Windows or BSD for a while, which probably is not going to be the most fun. But I assume most of you guys would be sensible and vote for something like Arco, Sabian, or Seduction. I voted for Seduction. I'm going to vote again for Seduction. Seduction has absolutely no chance of winning in this poll. With 46% of the vote, Ghost BSD has 2,097 votes. With 44% of the vote, Windows 10 has 2,004 votes. 90% of the people that voted in this poll want me to live in something that is not a Linux operating system. So my question to all of you is, what the hell is wrong with you? Let me show all the numbers here. Well, so we've got about 4,500 people that have voted in this poll. That's crazy. All right. Yeah. Heather, I found out Chrome is sucking up a lot of my CPU. Yeah. All the big modern web browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Chromium. Yeah. That's just the nature of it. It's the nature of the modern web, though. A lot of websites are bloated. And the browsers that have to, serve those web pages to you, they're bloated. That is just what we have to live with now, I think. Yeah, TrueOS is the more stable, maybe. I'm not. There's no way I'm living in TrueOS. There was no way I was adding TrueOS to that poll. When I reviewed TrueOS, I hated it. TrueOS. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Yeah, you can use Manjaro with the LTS kernels. That's what I usually do. On any rolling release distros, I usually just stick with the LTS kernel. I don't want the latest kernel. There's no reason to. What are you expecting to get out of that new kernel release? Unless you're buying like brand new hardware that just entered the market and you need something in that kernel that was released last night for your new hardware, you never need to update to a new kernel, honestly. So if the kernel version you're on is working for you, stick with it. The only thing that can happen by upgrading to that next kernel is something could break on you. So, just stick with what's working. So, yeah, at the moment, Firefox 61 is taking 600 megabytes. Wow, of RAM. OMG, the poll. By the way, some of you tried to cheat. Pollmaker is smart for that person that made that bot. That somebody made a bot and they voted for Seduction over 3,000 times in like 8 hours. Pollmaker eliminated all those votes. And I say somebody, I actually got an email from the guy that did it. He said he was trying to help me out. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, your votes didn't count. I wish they did. Maybe I should count them. Yeah. I did not know there was a poll. Is it too late? No. We're gonna run. I was gonna run the poll for a week. We started it this past Sunday. So end of the day, this Saturday will be the end of the poll. And right now, the really only 2 options I have are Ghost BSD and Windows 10. And at this point, I'm hoping for Ghost BSD. I think it would be the more interesting of the 2 to live in. I think it would be the better of the 2 to live in as well. I'm not sure exactly how it would work for me getting all my work done on this channel, living inside BSD. It could present some challenges, but I'm up to it. I'm up to it more than I'm up to trying to live in Windows 10 for a month. Let's see. I have to have a web browser with Flash, says Heather. Let's see. Did you try the Basilisk web browser? I'm assuming that was for Heather. I've never tried Basilisk. How is Ghost BSD as a desktop OS compared to something like Arch or Solus? BSD is not really a good desktop operating system in general. If we're comparing Linux versus BSD, yeah, BSD is nowhere near as mature of a desktop operating system as Linux. It's just not. Great as a server operating system, BSD. So, yeah, Hackintosh. Yeah, I didn't add that to the poll. I'm not interested in trying that one. And Breadmoth, you got trolled, DT. I did. I got trolled. But Sabian all the way. I wish more people would have voted for Sabian. I would have liked to have given Sabian a try. Maybe next time. Slackware, yeah, maybe. Ronnie says, I used FreeBSD for years. Do not miss those times at all, but it was interesting. So apparently I have a lot to look forward to living in GhostBSD, which is based on FreeBSD. I don't like the Lumina desktops, says Breadmoth. I hated the Lumina desktop. It was horrible. Yeah, TrueOS has more than just the Lumina. Yeah, I mean, you can install other desktops, but that's the one they ship with. I really wish they didn't ship with it. It just looks horrible. It just gives a bad impression of the distro when you ship with that Lumina desktop. That thing is so ugly. I know looks are not everything, but just the feel of it and how it functions, it's just not a good desktop environment at all. FreeBSD is still open source. Yep. Yes, it is. FreeBSD, the only thing about FreeBSD is they no longer allow hugging, virtual hugs, so I have to be careful with that, I guess, if I do FreeBSD. Let's see, guys, there are 90 watching DT stream right now. Give the dude some love, hit that thumbs up, smash that like button, just like Tim F says. How you doing, Tim? Hope you had a great 4th of July, buddy. Tony T, BSD is solid as a NAS, thanks to ZFS. Yep. That's the one thing I would, if I do end up living in Ghost BSD for a month, it'll be interesting to play around with ZFS. Let's see. Brian Lunduke did a video about no hugging, yeah, about the whole FreeBSD controversy, about their new code of conduct where virtual hugs are no longer allowed because it could be considered harassment. Yeah, the market anarchist. Lumina is terrible. TrueOS barely worked when I tried it, yes. Lumina's not good. TrueOS, in my opinion, is not good. I know the BSD fanboys hated my review of TrueOS because it was not nice at all. But you know what? I gotta be honest. You know, that was my reaction. You know, I was coming at it as a brand new user, and man, I did not like TrueOS at all. Yeah, social justice warriors are creeping into everything. Yeah, that's what happened with the FreeBSD and their code of conduct. Anyway, I'm going to kill the stream in another couple of minutes, guys. If anybody's got anything they want to say here in the last minute, feel free to put it in the chat now. Take another couple of sips of my evening beverage before bed here. Fireworks still going off outside. I didn't buy any, so I should have bought some fireworks. Went out in the driveway and shot off something. Oh well. Maybe on New Year's. Yeah, MC support. What was your first distro? The very first distro I tried as far as a desktop distro was Ubuntu 8.04. Was that the Hardy Heron release, I think? Now on servers, I played around with some other stuff way before that. But the first one, you know, like when I realized people were actually living in Linux on their desktops, because I had never even considered it before like 2008. you know, a lot of people started talking about Ubuntu in a lot of the forums and stuff I hung out in. Hey, you know, get rid of Windows, you know, Vista sucks, you know, give Ubuntu a try. Yeah. So, and I did, and I thought it was awesome. Didn't care for the GNOME 2 desktop. I quickly made my way to OpenBox even back then. So, that's where I found OpenBox. And then from there, you know, that's the rest is history. Start looking around at pretty much every distro and desktop environment known to man. Never went back to Windows, though. Yeah, Kerwin says, take care, Derek. Appreciate it. Robert, hi, Derek. I just discovered your video setting up OpenBox on Debian. Really looking forward to setting up my rig with it this weekend. Very cool. You're going to love Debian. I think you're going to love OpenBox. Yeah, private fireworks are illegal where I live. Yeah, they're actually illegal in probably most parts of this country, unfortunately. Understandable, especially most of the country is very dry. Out west, you know, way too much of a fire hazard. Especially, you know, July 4th in the middle of the summer, even in places that are not out west and in the desert. Sometimes it's just too dry. They'll have temporary bans on things like that. Luckily, it's so humid where I live, it's not a problem. Let's see, Systemd free Ubuntu when? You're looking for an Ubuntu that is Systemd free? I don't know of any Ubuntu-based distro that is Systemd free. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, to be honest. If you want a Debian-based distro that is Systemd free, there's plenty of things to choose from. You could try Dev1, you could try Antix. I would give both of those a look. Advantages of Unix system is for people, for example, is for servers and safety, like jails. Yep. Any recommendations for my inner distro hopping disease? It's like I can't stick to one distro or desktop environment for more than a few months. I'm not the right person to talk to about that. Where you talked about some of the super chats earlier, you know, that you guys donated, and I really appreciate all you guys that helped out with that. I actually ordered an IC-Dock, which is a drive bay. The one I ordered is going to hold 6 SSD drives eventually. I haven't ordered all the drives, obviously. That's a ton of money to buy 6 SSD drives, but I have ordered the bay. I'm going to slowly fill that thing with SSD drives so that I will have the SSD drive that's already in my main production machine. Then that IC-Dock actually will sit where the DVD drive is. Take the DVD drive out of the tower, put the IC-Dock in. That IC-Dock holds 6 extra drives. Now I'll have a total of 7 drives to distro hop on. Now I can install each OS to its own drive. I can unplug the drives, you know, from the IC-Dock. They're very easy. They're just plug in and out, very simple. That way, you know, if I have something critical, I want to make sure nothing gets wiped out on a certain drive, I can always just unplug it. So there's never an issue with like installing, you know, the Grub bootloader. You know, you're wondering where it's going to put that on what partition, what drive. Just unplug all the drives except the one you're using. Problem solved. So this IC-Dock I've got coming is going to make hopping a lot easier. You might want to check that out. Any of you guys in the chat, if you hop a lot, check out IC-Dock. Just search for it on Amazon. They do 4 drive bays and they do a 6 drive bay. I went with the 6 drive bay. Now I have to buy 6 drives to put in it. That's going to get a little expensive, but I think it'll be worth it in the end. It'll make distro hopping a lot better. I can do more distro hopping on my main production machine, you know, using the actual hardware I use on a daily basis, like my mic and webcam. And, you know, instead of doing things either in a VM, live USB stick, or on these laptops, which, I mean, they're physical hardware, but I don't live on these things. I don't do the show on these things. So really looking forward to getting that IC-Dock. Like I said, I just ordered it. I think I ordered it yesterday with the holiday and everything. I don't know. I might have it in a week. Then I got to, you know, order the drives for it. Hopefully, you know, within a month, I'll have at least a couple of extra SSD drives in that thing, and should make things a little interesting as far as hopping, and hopefully it'll help the channel out. Is the main thing. So Bread Moth, another contribution. Appreciate that, buddy. That might have been what you were trying to contribute to earlier. I mentioned I'd bought a couple of things, and you were asking, you knew I needed a particular piece of equipment. I think we were talking about the IC dock the other day. Possibly. I've got a couple of things on the way. I did an order from Newegg earlier. I've got a couple of different pieces of equipment. Some of them I'm not going to discuss just yet. I'll share them on camera when I get them. Katrina says good night. Appreciate that, Katrina. Everybody, I want to thank all you guys for hanging out. I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream now. Brofist.jpg says Breadmaw. Appreciate that, Breadmaw. Really, sincerely. It helped out a lot. It was a fork of soft landing Linux. Slackware? Yep. Slackware came out in 1992. That is correct. Slackware is the oldest Linux distribution that's still around. Debian is the second oldest. It came out right around the same time as Slackware, just like a couple months difference. It's crazy that both of them are still around, Slackware and Debian. Going strong, yeah. All right, well, let me see. Before I go, I do want to thank all you guys that are still hanging out here at the end. Breadmoth, DGD, Frat, Dan Simmons, Madhouse, MC Support, Present Arms, Ronnie Siva, Anarchist, Undefined Particle. Thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, as always. Before I go, I do need to give a special thanks to my patrons, all my Patreon supporters. David, Carlos, Nick, Daniel, Brian, Leor, AK, Ron, Keith, Dan, Michael, Tony, Bruno, David, Mike, Silvio, Omar, Mark, Mr. Neely Pops, John, Carl, Greg, Rob, Matt, Christian, Tiedemann, Stephen Z, Eduardo, Alex, Jake, Benjamin, Stephen B, Marcus, Interceptor, Tubella, Humade, First Paul, Second Paul, Chuck, Ben, John, Swami, Mr. Smarty Pants, and Dan Simmons. Appreciate you guys. You guys rock. You guys help make this show possible. Peace, guys.